Hey guys, welcome back. I see. I did it, Matt. Welcome to another session of Habitat Office Hours. I'm your host, Kaya Tolliver, and I am here with our regulars, George and Raul, and also a brand new face from the Habitat team, Matt Rock. Thank y'all for joining us today.
Thank you, Kai.
It's our
Um,
pleasure.
Awesome. Let's talk about our special guest today, Matt. Matt, you are a principal software engineer for Habitat.
Yes,
Why
that
don't
is
you give the folks a brief background about how you came to be who you are in the Habitat world, because you're the
sure,
guy.
sure. Yeah, yeah. So I've been working for well, chef for 6 years. Chef now. For the last I guess it's been over a year. It's been a year and a half almost for progress.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, it was like around 2004. When was it? I don't know. 2016, I think. Yeah, when I came on board, and I wasn't working on Habitat. In fact, actually, when I came on board, Habitat wasn't even like Habitat wasn't. It
Wasn't even a
wasn't.
thing.
Yeah, yeah. So I was working on the on Chef Infra back then. My background is basically in Windows automation. So PowerShell. I've worked for Microsoft um, for 5 years, and then uh, I did some automation for CenturyLink for a while, and then that's where I um, got to know Chef. And then I came on board with Chef, and so towards the beginning of Habitat. So Habitat, when Habitat was built, it was targeted for Linux, and
Hmm.
um, and we wanted to make sure that it worked on Windows. And so at the time it didn't even compile on Windows, and so basically I came on and I did the work to make sure that everything built on Windows, the whole ecosystem, so from the supervisor to the build system, that we could get packages and get all that stuff working on Windows.
For sure.
And then to our surprise, we actually got customers using it. But I don't know, maybe if I shouldn't say it that way, but
Right.
it was like one of those things where like, hey, it really seemed to fit the bill, for the Linux world. And honestly, it just felt like, you know, we do, our products do run on Windows. This thing should run on Windows. Let's bring Matt on and just get the thing working and it ended up, that we actually got a lot of people really liked liked the way it worked on Windows, and it solved some problems in that space. Um, so at any rate, that's my story.
That great story. Great story. Thanks for sharing. We've got a lot of things to talk about today. About some new features or new support features, I guess, from the Habitat side, and also some team changes. And we are going to get into that. But first, let's do some pre flight checks. If you're not following us on Twitter, what are you doing? Definitely follow us on Twitter for all of our planned outages to get notified when we go live, webinars, all things chef. Follow us on Twitter, and also community Slack. If you are a practitioner or someone who is looking to be involved with chef, absolutely go and check out, because there's a wealth of knowledge. Gentlemen, including and myself, are on Slack, and we are here to answer your questions and concerns, and we can help with troubleshooting as well. So, absolutely hit up community Slack whenever you got a question, or even if it's just to say hi. So let's dig in to our content today. Actually, we've got some community questions that we would like to start by answering, and I will actually pull the first one out the hat. And this is a question from Zachary. Zachary says, I'm trying to automate my HAB build process. And for that, I need to use some GitHub secrets inside of my plan file. What's the appropriate way to pass build time environment variables to the HAB package build such that they can be used within the plan.sh? Who wants to take that?
Oh, go ahead.
Go
So I know the answer to this question. So first of all, just to provide kind of the full answer. So because we do work for Windows and Linux. So on Windows, it's a little different because the environment variables are actually inherited from the studio. So when you do a HAB package build, it just whatever environment variables you have scoped locally will propagate into the studio. The way that we build the Linux environment is a little bit different. There is a list of environment variables that we will automatically carry over. I don't have that list in front of me right now, but if this is your custom GitHub secrets, I can pretty much assure you that's not in the list. So the way to get those environment variables over into the studio, which is basically what HAB package build, when you call HAB package build, what you are doing is you're under the hood, you're creating a studio, you're running the build, and then coming back out of the studio. And so basically, it's even though you're not doing a HAB studio enter, the same logistics, the same flow is basically happening, that you just can't see it. So you need to basically prepend your environment variable with HAB _ studio _ secret _. So let's say your environment was GitHub key. So you would have uppercase HAB _ studio _ secret _ GitHub key, and then so while locally that would be the name of the variable, once it shows up in the studio, it would just be GitHub key, and in your plan you can reference it. You can reference it as such. So you could, in your plan, you could use that environment variable and should have access to it.
Okay. So let's put, okay. I will put that in the chat here. Oh, we actually got a comment from someone on LinkedIn. Eamon says hello. Hello, Eamon. I've put your answer, the HAB Studio Secret variable, in the chat. Actually, I'll do that for LinkedIn as well. And we can move on to our next question. Our next question is from Rajesh, and it actually has to do with one of the things we planned on talking about today, and our on our agenda. And this question is Habitat Studio supported for Mac M1 architecture? We're currently building a project through Habitat, but the supervisor fails to start.
I could take that one too. So what's that?
So take it away.
Okay. Yes. So currently today, you can use a Habitat Studio on the M1. You can get the build functionality on an M1. So and I what's important to note is this is under x86 emulation. So you're while an M1 is running on ARM. This is this when you enter a studio on an M1, you're entering into a so you need to get the x86. You need to get the I think it's I'm not
Rosetta.
totally familiar. Yeah, Rosetta.
Rosetta
you need to get that set up with Docker. So basically, you're running an x86 emulated environment inside of Docker. So today, building should work fine. Basic HAB commands work fine. So building, uploading to like a HAB package upload should all work. What doesn't work today, as noted by the questioner, is the supervisor. So there is the file system, the QEMU file system that's being used in that emulated environment has issues with some of the native calls that we make for some of the file system functionality that the supervisor uses. We are addressing that. In fact, we have a PR that is just on the verge of being merged. So we anticipate that the next release of Habitat will include that working. So with that fix merged and included in the next release, the supervisor should work. It will work. We've tested it. We see it working. We've run packages under it in various scenarios, and so that is definitely set to be resolved in the near future.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt, for those answers. And thank you, Zachary and Rajesh, for your questions. Community members, please, if you are, watching this, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the community Slack, and we will absolutely get to your questions, whether we get to them on community Slack in real time, which will also happen. But we like to be able to answer questions on our live stream as well. So feel free to ask all of the questions, whatever you got. I'm sure our brilliant team members here will be able to answer them, and it makes for a more interesting stream, So bring us all your questions. Next on our list of things to talk about is application telemetry. George, do you want to give that update?
Sure. So we talked last month in our office hours a little bit about some upcoming features that we were looking to solicit from the community and customers today around what do you want to know about Habitat from an ecosystem? How is it running? What's the health? What's the characteristics around that? We're still actively soliciting feedback. So if you're out there and using Habitat and you want to see some more information around the health of the environment, some statistics on what the application looks like, what the runtime is, be it whether you're using Automate or would like to send that into another tool, we're really interested in having a conversation with you. So today, we know there's a couple things that people have asked about. Customers and people in the community have really asked about understanding the timing for the different hooks. So how long an init hook takes, how many times it might fail, and some other error conditions. So we want to talk a little bit more about how we can start echoing out some additional application telemetry and give you a better view of your Habitat ecosystem. So if you have additional suggestions, you want to talk to us or the product team, please reach out to us on community Slack. We'll set up some time to chat and dive deeper into what you're looking to do and what you're looking to get out of understanding your Habitat environment. In addition, so we're also looking at now, thinking about in the next few releases, so not this next release, but upcoming in some future ones here, adding a little bit more telemetry so we can track what people are using, not necessarily what you're doing with Habitat, but what features are getting the most use, what you're using, what kind of exporters and other areas. As with all the rest of the telemetry for Chef products, that is an opt-in component, so you have to be able to opt in to supply us that data. But we'll be publishing in the next few months the stats around the exact type of information we'll be collecting. So you have a lot of comfort in understanding that there's no secrets information in there. There's no identifiable information. It's just understanding more about how people are using the Habitat, how builds are processing, what components and features you're using the most of to help us prioritize future enhancements and additional work going forward. So if you have any questions or concerns about that as well, please reach out to us on the community Slack, and love to talk to you a little bit more about your concerns about that sort of data and how we're using it, and then even participate in sort of that review process of what that specification looks like.
Awesome. Thank you, George. So, yep, another plug on asking questions via community Slack. So next on our agenda, we've got upcoming M1 support. Matt, do you have anything additional to talk about where the M1 support goes, or did you cover everything in that answer to Rajesh's question?
I think that's the key. I mean, we want to, so there's really kind of, I think two key use cases have emerged with the M1. So one is certainly addressed by that question, is how do I, like, I've been building x86 Linux based Habitat packages on my Mac. And I want to keep doing that, but I can't test them on the M1. So that I think we've covered. I think we have had it come up where, well, hey, I've got an M1. It's ARM. Can I just what if I don't have Rosetta, or I don't want to use what if I just want native ARM 64, and this stuff it comes up internally too, because now as we get new employees and new M1s are starting to are the laptops that are coming down the pike, and so I guess I don't want to say there's nothing official that I have to announce about that, but it is something that we've actually we've poked. I would just comment it's something that we've poked at internally of how could I build this just straight up ARM 64 packages.
So to add just a little bit more in there, as Matt mentioned, obviously more and more engineers that we have now are using M1s. So you'll see better and improved support across the entire Habitat ecosystem for running that. Today, we're really focusing on the Rosetta experience. Obviously, that's the first pass for us, because our predominant customer base is now using x86. We're building and deploying those x86 packages. But not to yet again plug the community Slack, but we'd love to talk to people who are interested in deploying for ARM architectures, be it either in single board computer environments or even into cloud environments such as AWS using ARM architectures, or maybe internally if you have some ARM servers or any other areas. So what are your use cases? What does that look like? We're starting to explore that ourselves internally, but as the industry starts to put more and more focus on ARM processors being available in the data center, and chip manufacturers are scaling that out, obviously, that'll become more and more of a focus that we want to have, but we want to make sure we do it right, and we are focusing on the things that are most important to our users versus the build it and they will come. We've gotten lucky with that in the past, and that's worked well for us. But with such a big undertaking, such as supporting package refreshes for multiple architectures, we want to make sure that we're starting where you need us to be. So please let us know and give us some direction.
Absolutely. Thanks for adding a bit of color to that. Next on our agenda, we've got team updates and info regarding analytics. Raul, this seems like your wheelhouse. You want to give us some updates where that's concerned?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Kia. Um,
Sure.
we have been growing in our team. We have hired some amazing engineers, and they're on board. And as as we speak and as we continue with this journey, the team is ramping up on various areas, and I'm super excited to see uh, what great things we'll be doing next, right? So we are basically picking up some of the items as Matt mentioned, work related to M1 support, and in future we might come up with some really cool ideas around supervisor, around things which we haven't spoken in last few months, right? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I think that's an update on team. There is an amazing energy, there is an amazing amount of enthusiasm, and the team is growing very rapidly. Habitat package refresh, that's our next topic. So I think it's pretty much going full swing. um, we have made considerable progress, and we are in the middle of creating a refresh bundle for Linux and Linux 2
Mm-hmm.
platforms. And with the way we are looking at right now, we are thinking that we'll be able to provide a release of Habitat package refresh around mid like Q2, Q3
Okay.
timeframe. And so I think we are also basically starting to talk about application analytics,
Mm-hmm.
telemetry for Habitat, and pretty much early stages discussion. But really excited to basically have those conversations within the group, within the team, with George, with Matt, and those type of conversations are also going on. We'll definitely have more updates on it in future. And as we have been talking in our previous talks, right? Any feedback, any suggestions, or any questions, more than happy to take them in this in this call or basically outside in our community Slack.
Awesome. Thank you for those updates as well. That's exciting to learn that the Have team is growing. I know like it's been a challenge because it's like where do you find all the Rust developers? But happy to hear that the team has been successful and onboarding some talented and enthusiastic folks. So that's great. It's great for the community. It's great for the team overall. So, are there any other call outs before we close out our session? And also, this is to uh, our internal folks and also our folks who are watching. Any questions that you may have before we wrap up?
So while we're waiting for some questions to roll in, I do have one more thing that I'd love to talk about. And for
Sure.
those of you who are listening, you might have caught the message or the theme here, engage. We're making a deep effort from across the entire team to engage deeper with the community, with our users, understand what you're trying to do, get closer to that. That includes things such as our team taking on some additional responsibilities for writing and updating documentation, training material, other areas. But to do that, we really would like to engage further and understand where those gaps are, understand where we can best help, and take the effort of the expanded team and really focus it in the right direction. So if you didn't catch the message with all the hints about heading over to community Slack or engaging, please do so, and don't feel like it has to be a question about how Habitat works or a particular bug or issue. It could be, this documentation is confusing to me. I would love a tutorial on this, or suggestions on how we can improve these office hours. Do you want to see more demos? Do you want to see different team members rotate in and out? Do we want to hear just more from Matt, and it just become 20 minutes of Matt answering questions? Can't promise we're going to do any of that or all of that, but we do want to hear from you so that we can best tailor these messages to what you're looking for. And that's a moving target, just like everything else we do. This is an evolving situation. So please keep the feedback coming. We're going to try some new things in the next coming weeks. And if they're working, great. If they're not, let us know so we can double down on that.
Great, great shameless plug there, George.
We could take like random areas of the code base, and I can just recite the line by line the Rust. That might be.
Let's just do it. I like that. I kid.
I'm sick that day. I'm just
I know. Right? I kid. Let's please not do that.
My oral interpretation of the supervisor fallback function. Yes.
And when we can read all of the things that like happen in the terminal after we make the commands.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm getting excited.
How's that for excitement? Shoot. Awesome. Well, I don't see any questions from our viewers currently, but I do know that this is going to be on YouTube. So please feel free to, if you have any questions about anything that we discussed today, you can also ask them on YouTube. I go back and check on our YouTube questions, and any feedback or things that you want like for us to elaborate on, we will make sure to do that. And with that, I think we're going to call it a wrap. Thanks everybody for joining, and we will see you all next month.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was very nice talking to everybody. Bye.